Okay, we've got Jack. That's that guy.
Was that my cue?
That's your cue.
Yes. Sorry. Cool. I got it right.
This is his 05 Dodge. Why don't you come in here and tell the guys what you got done to the truck. This is kind of a build he's been working on for a while.
It's been like almost a year in the making. Yep.
And it's finally here on the dyno. You know, COVID kind of wrecked our plans. That was going to happen a couple months earlier.
It did.
But you're finally here. So why don't you tell the guys what you got done to the truck, and we'll tell them what kind of power we can make with it today.
Awesome. Yeah, man. And thanks for having me out. Everybody at the shop's been fantastic. I know a lot of you have probably been here in the past, and I know that you can all attest to just how awesome this place is and the people that make it possible. So I really appreciate that, Levon.
Yep.
We've got a 2005 single cab here that I've been calling like my clapped out auction farm truck. I bought it for very cheap at auction, and I found a slew of stuff that I really didn't want to find, but it made it kind of an interesting story, and it's evolved pretty considerably over the last, like, I'm going to call it year of ownership. This is kind of my first big horsepower Cummins project. I had a single cab Duramax prior to this, and I really wanted to kind of, I'm going to call it, graduate into a platform that we could actually make a lot more power. So the most power out of a diesel truck I've ever had is about 700 horsepower, and that was my single cab Duramax. And the objective with this truck here behind me was to break that, like, what I'll call it, monumental 1,000 horsepower barrier.
Right.
So the discussion started early on. It was the end of basically 2019, around the December timeframe. Reached out to Levon. I said, hey, I absolutely want you to build my trans. I want to also have kind of your console in power adders to get us to this objective. A simple overview of the setup is we've got our Worley custom dual S400 compound turbo setup, S480 in the atmosphere, S467.7 on the manifold, Steed Speed second gen swap. For fuel, we've got Exergy 250 over injectors. I've been working with Exergy since the very beginning on every single one of my builds. It's awesome to see you guys too, Rob and Randy. Shout out to you guys because they are the best. From a pump perspective, we've got a 12 millimeter Exergy pump, and then we've got, you know, our Fast 220, all the kind of supporting modifications that you would expect to kind of get to this point. And then to tie it all together, we've got a D&J, basically fully ported and polished head. It's got the built valve train. We've got push rods.
Was that the HD Reman head where they do
I believe so.
The valve seats, valve guides? They do all the supporting stuff, and you did fire rings, ARP 625s,
yep,
and a stock bottom end.
Yes, and then we're a stock bottom end. So it's a 156 XXX 1,000-mile truck, and the objective was to just see if we could crack that, which I knew this guy would be able to do it.
Right.
He wouldn't let me leave if he didn't do it, essentially. And that's basically where we are.
Sure. Well, the truck is also not quite as farm trucky as what he bought it as, because it is very nice now.
Thank you.
You did SRT 10 interior and did a new grill, bumper, paint correction. I mean, the truck looks really nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Park it out beside my quad cab, and it looks like
they look great together.
Yeah,
man.
it's like the younger, skinnier brother.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we're gonna put this thing through its paces on the dyno today, and hopefully we can get him his 1,000 horsepower he's looking for.
That's the goal.
And then we're going to send him on his way. Okay, well, listen here. You've got a 1,000 horsepower truck and then some. We gave you a little bonus. We did 1,114 horsepower and a little over 1,500 foot-pounds of torque on the stock rods, and they did not exit the block.
They didn't.
So
we're good. Yeah, we're still good. We're still good.
It hasn't broke yet. So I think we're going to actually probably dial this thing back just a little bit before I send them out on the street, because the numbers that we did make are a pretty high risk for a stock rod.
Especially once you get to shifting gears.
Right. So really, ideally, I'll probably send him out the door like 925, 950 horsepower, and then I'll have him these tunes in his email. So if somebody ever wants to race or he really feels ballsy, you can load up the big tune.
Luckily, I won't have this guy in my ear influencing me to make bad decisions anymore. So.
You need better friends, because that's not bad influence. That's just good fun. He documented, he has his own YouTube channel, which is Dirty Max Jack.
It is, yep.
And he documented I don't know, a couple different videos?
4-part video series of basically the progression of this truck from the point at which it was completely stock transmission-wise on its factory 48, and we tested its limits, trans-build process. I reviewed Andy's truck here, and then we, of course, got today.
Right, so if you guys want to check out the footage that he got here at Firepunk, Go over to Dirty Max Jack's his channel, check it out. We had put this setup on the dyno on Monday before we pulled the thing apart, and did 751 horsepower on the stock trans, and it was going right through that stock torque converter. It was pretty mad about life. And then we built the trans, put it back on the dyno, did 851 on the same tune, so it picked up 100 horsepower with the transmission.
Yep.
And then we started just creeping up onto it, and we were also careful keeping timing and rail pressure out of it at the lower RPM, so we can make peak power at 3,800 without busting a rod. So
exactly.
Now
I heard that we're gonna break a rod, maybe discussion plenty of times. I knew exactly what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, so he said, you know what, if it breaks, he'll just leave it here and we'll build it.
That was the plan.
I never tell guys to try to make 1,100 horsepower on a stock rod if they're going to be absolutely heartbroken if it breaks. But he had the right attitude in mind. He wanted a hot rod, so we gave him a hot rod. So
and I'm stoked, guys. Like, I can't even begin to explain, like, A, how excited I am, but B, I mean, it's just like, this has been a goal of mine for years. I can't even tell you how many diesel trucks, and none of them compare to what this is in and of itself. And that's just like an incredible feeling.
Well, we're just really glad that we could be a small part of finishing up this build, because you had some good people back home that got you back put together, and we kind of topped it off with tuning and transmission. I think we're ready to get this thing off the dyno and send you back home.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much for the hospitality, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Yes, sir.